You're watching Talk Mini, and I'm your CJ. Welcome back to the albums ranked. And today's albums ranked will be of Black Sabbath. Have you seen the title? Long time coming from ranking Black Sabbath for the last time. I pissed everybody off that time. I'm about to do it again because, well, yeah. If you're offended by any ranking videos or any rankings of any really popular bands, especially Black Sabbath, please click off now because I could offend you because yeah, I have a lot of hot takes. I have a lot of hot takes on this one, and fair warning. Let's get into it. I've already warned you. 19 studio albums, not including the Heaven and Hell record. So, yeah. But yeah, starting out, number 19 is 13 from 2013, which, yeah, 13 over and over, which, honestly, for me, is my least favorite, always has been my least favorite, and just really never connected with this one. Best song in here is Live Forever, and that's really all I gotta say about this one. I really don't want to dwell on ones that I really don't like, as I don't really like this album, and yeah. Number 18 is one that I have liked quite a lot, which is a 9.5 out of 10, which is Never Say Die from 1978. Oh, last one until 13, mentioned before, with Ozzy Osbourne on vocals, and you can tell this wasn't the Black Sabbath from before. A very forgettable album compared to all the other Ozzy ones. Best song here is the title track, Never Say Die. That starts the album. Yeah, this album was kind of forgettable. Very forgettable album there. Number 17, I'm kind of blowing by the bottom half of the list. Don't want to be having this video like 18, 19 minutes long. Probably will end up that way anyways, but yeah. Number 17 is Forbidden from 1995, a 9.7 out of 10. Still pretty good. Widely hated by the majority, often said to be their worst. I'm going to disagree with it as it's coming in third last. As it has some really good songs, but has the illusion of power, and yeah, complete dud song there. Complete, yeah, I don't like that one at all. It does have one of the greatest songs from Sabbath in I Won't Cry For You. Absolutely an awesome song there. Yeah, one of Sabbath's best slow songs, and more, and just with how Tony Martin's vocals on that song just makes this album go up a few places. Really, it makes it more memorable. It makes it more memorable than Never Say Die, because really, you don't really remember anything from it. You're not going to be like going, oh, I want to go back to this one. I'm like, I want to hear I Won't Cry For You again, so I'm going to go back to this album, put it in, and listen to it in full just for that one song. So that's basically why I put that there. 16 is another Ozzy record, which is Technical Ecstasy from 1976. Kind of forgettable in the vast discography of Black Sabbath, but still really good, and I enjoy it every time I listen to it all the way through. That's it, because I don't want this video to be too long. I'm not really going to go into depth with this one either. Best song here is She's Gone. Great ballad from Black Sabbath. And yeah, one of the best songs that they did from the Ozzy era. It falls on a forgettable album, but it's still really memorable. That's why it's there. And here's where I pissed everybody off. Number 15, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath from 1974. It's a good album, but I've never really connected with it. It is a fan favorite, but it has never been a favorite for me. It was like that last time. I think it was a little bit higher on the list than last time, but a lot of albums moved up. A lot of the Tony Martin era ones moved up. But yeah, there is good songs like the title track, which is one of my favorite Black Sabbath songs of all time. Absolutely amazing song. A National Acrobat, Sabracadabra, and Looking for Today, but I'd rather listen to the ones above it on the list. Really, it's a good album. I'll put it in and enjoy it when I think of it, but really, I enjoy the other ones above it a lot more. That's the big hot take. One of the bigger hot takes here. Another one is one that's really high on the list. Number 14 is Born Again from 1983. Hated by the wide community of fans for some reason. I think Born Again is a fine album, but not up to par with the Sabbath albums above it. This is the only album with Deep Purple singer Ian Gillan, which he does a pretty good job here. Songs to mention are Trashed, The Best One, Zero the Hero, Digital Bitch, the title track, Hotline, and Disturbing the Priest, all being ones that stand out. It's one of those albums that is packed, but the albums above it are more packed than this. Honestly, fucking awesome album, and one that I've listened to quite a lot in my listening to Black Sabbath, and how many times I've listened to all these albums, because I think I've heard all these albums except 13 like almost 10 times each, which is kind of rare for a band, but I'll refresh. Get my able to speak again. I'm going to move up the list so I can see what I'm doing. Number 13 is Cross Purposes from 1994. A doomy, dark record that marks the start of the second Martin era of Sabbath. The vocals are different than what was seen from Tony Martin before, being along the lines of what Dio and Sabbath was doing with the Humanizer 2 years before. Of course, this is another album that is overlooked by most Sabbath fans, as, yeah, it's not Ozzy or Dio, but it's worth checking out. Best song here is Cardinal Sin. Others to note are Eyewitness, Cross of Thorns, Virtual Death, Dying for Love, and Evil Eye. Another banger album that gets overlooked because it's not the Ozzy or Ronnie James Dio. That's how a lot of the Sabbath albums went. As you can tell, I got a new mouse and new chair as well. Yeah, that one decided it would the pump that keeps the chair up would completely go. So yeah, number 12, Heaven and Hell, another hot take here from 1980. The first album after Ozzy Osbourne was fired and replaced by Ronnie James Dio. With how Dio's vocals are vastly different than Ozzy, you would expect Black Sabbath to be horrible on this album, but in fact, they changed their whole approach and sound to fit Dio. It's more grand, it's more angelic, and it hits on a different level. I thought this brought the beautiful and best song on this album, Children of the Sea, into existence, as well as Neon Nights, Lady Evil, the title track, and Die Young. Truly a fantastic album, but yeah, everything above it is just much more big, and yeah, 12 and 11 were two of those albums that just it was hard to rank. And I went with Dehumanizer at number 11, which is another Dio album. Yeah, I'm starting to get congested, but oh well. Dehumanizer, I said this ranking changed a lot from the last time. This was my second favorite last time, but it changed. Time is a bitch, and it fell all the way here because, well, I grew to like the other ones more than this one, which is kind of weird to say, and it's kind of weird to have one fall this far down, but yeah, it just didn't hit as hard as it did last time when I listened to it. The final Black Sabbath album with Dio, and I have to say it's probably Sabbath's heavier other than 13, taking a more doom metal approach to this album. It's slower than most in the discography. Songs like The Best Here, TV Crimes, Letters from Earth, After All, Masters of Insanity, and Time Machine make this a fun listen and make it enjoyable every time you would go into it. It's definitely one of those albums that you could listen to over and over and still enjoy every time. Here we go. Number 10. I'm surprised this one made it here at number 10. Seventh Star from 1986. One of the most underrated albums within Black Sabbath, within the Black Sabbath name, and it wasn't supposed to be a Sabbath album. It was supposed to be the Tony Iommi solo album, but Black Sabbath ended up getting on the cover, and well, we're glad it did because this album is fucking great. The only album to feature Glenn Hughes from Trapeze and the MK3 at Deep Purple, which his vocals here are powerful, mixed with Iommi's guitar playing, make for a unique sounding album. Best songs are In for the Kill, No Stranger to Love, the big one on this album that was the one that everybody pointed to, but yeah. Best song, 7-star. I point to 7-star. The title track is the best song here. Just how the song is just written, it's just so it just catchy and gets in your head and won't leave. Danger Zone and Heart Like a Wheel. Kind of overlooked. This album is quite overlooked in the vast discography of Black Sabbath, and yeah, one of those albums that I would consider checking out if you haven't before, because it's definitely worth your time. Number 9, Master of Reality from 1971, the third studio album from Black Sabbath, following Sabbath's most successful and most popular album, Paranoid. They delivered a grime-laden, doomy and heavier album. I butchered that one. Oopsies. Master of Reality is basically the transitional piece between Paranoid and Volume 4, two of the greatest Sabbath albums, and still to come. Spoiler alert. Not really a spoiler alert, because you haven't seen them yet, so. This album is still has some chops. Sweet Leaf, my favorite, After Forever, Children of the Grave, and Into the Void. I know a lot of people either love this album or hate this album. I know some people that hate this album, and, well, yeah, this is like the foundation of the whole doom metal thing, and yeah. And then we go with number 8, which is the self-titled 1970 first album debut. Arguably the first heavy metal album, but that has no merit towards how this is ranked. It's ranked by how it fares towards the others. And as you can see, it fares quite well, as it's at number 8, top 10. Songs like Black Sabbath, aka the first doom metal song, Wicked World, Behind the Wall of Sleep, The Bluesy Wizard, and the best song in this album, NIB, makes this a great listen every time. There's really no going wrong with the first Sabbath record. It's everything. It's like basically the blueprint for what they were going to do after this. Number 7 is going to be Tear from 1990. You're seeing the first era Martin album come up. There was, I think, 3 first era Martin albums. I said that the early Martin era albums were some of the greatest. Tear is a great Black Sabbath album that I see ranked quite low, and really that's quite criminal. But it's going here for me because I fucking love this album. I love everything about it. I love every minute of this album. Starts with the magical Anno Mundi and keeps up the quality throughout with Jerusalem, the Sabbath Stones, Odin's Court, and my favorite song here, Valhalla, on the winds of Valhalla. Just love that song there. And they even added this one to Spotify. So if you've never checked this album out and you're able to check it out on Spotify, I advise to fucking do it, because this is honestly a fucking banger Black Sabbath record. Just because it's not Ozzy or Dio doesn't mean it's not a good Sabbath record. Tear feels inspired all the way through with quality songs and quality lyrics that hit. Big thing about this record is the fantastic vocals from Tony Martin mixed with the fantastic songwriting. Yeah, one of the premier Sabbath records in my opinion. Honestly, fight me, because I fucking love this album, and I've always, ever since I first listened to it, it was ranked quite low first time, but that's just like years ago, and shit changes. Now I get to number 6, which is going to be Paranoid from 1970. The album that contains Black Sabbath's biggest hits and most legendary songs. Black Sabbath stripped the blues out of the record, bringing more of a dark, heavy metal flavor with hard guitar riffs and doomy vibes, especially on Hand of Doom. Honestly, probably the heaviest song on this record. Not the best song in this album. Black Sabbath would top this album multiple times in the career, which many will disagree, but I'm willing to die on that hill. Holding that opinion, songs like War Pigs, Paranoid, Planet Caravan, Iron Man, which is the best song from this one, Electric Funeral, and Fairies Wear Boots make it rightfully legendary. What to say about this album, but just a legendary heavy metal record that really put it on the map, was really the first, like, bare bones heavy metal record out there. Number 5 is going to be Headless Cross from 1989. Another controversial take here. One of the more overlooked masterpieces from the Black Sabbath discography. Tony Martin was a great fit for Black Sabbath, as this album, Tear and Eternal Idol, proves that Martin could lay down some absolutely punchy vocals to go along with Sabbath. This is the darkest and heaviest album Sabbath put out after Volume 4, with the guitars having a muddy feeling that gives off an epic doom metal feeling, reminiscent of like bands like Candlemass and Pentagram. And honestly, it's quite like an epic doom album. It has that flavor to it. It has a flavor that really Black Sabbath never revisited, and it's just a one-off stand-on album. Best song here is definitely the title track, followed by Devil and Daughter, Call of the Wild, and When Death Calls. And Nightwing, don't overlook this one or Idol just because they don't have Ozzy or Dio performing. First time I listened to this one, I was blown away because that title track is just so fucking ripping, and then it goes into Devil and Daughter, and it is honestly one of the great Sabbath records, and shows how Black Sabbath can evolve when they get different vocalists. Number 4 is going to be Mob Rules from 1981. The final 80s Dio Sabbath record, and the best one that Ronnie James Dio did with Black Sabbath. I used to not like this album, but maturing as a music listener has made me appreciate this masterpiece of heavy metal. Some of Iommi's greatest guitar work and songwriting appears here. Some of Ronnie's greatest moments are here. Every song, starting with Turn Up the Night, goes incredibly hard. Voodoo, Sign of the Southern Cross, and The Mob Rules, and best song, Country Girl. Fight me on that too. I think that's the best song on this album. Falling Off the Edge of the World and Over make this a masterpiece in their discography. It's a dark, gloomy, like, metal record done with Dio. So yeah, Mob Rules and number 4. Number 3, here we go with the controversy, The Eternal Idol from 1987. This may be a weird take, but this is one of my favorite albums from Black Sabbath and the most underrated, in my opinion. The debut of Tony Martin on vocals, and he's an absolute beast on this album. I'd say the vocals here are up there with Dio and Ozzy's with Punch. The songs here are top quality with The Shining, Ancient Warrior, Lost Forever, the title track, and one of my favorite Sabbath songs, Born to Lose, with that nice guitar riff and the bold vocals of Martin behind it. Just absolutely fucking awesome record, and one that honestly is a standalone album as well, because it sounds like nothing else in their discography. Sabbath really did that quite often, like made like standalone ones that didn't really sound like any other, including this one. They went away from the style like almost immediately, but yeah. Number 2, Volume 4. Here's where we get to the Ozzy stuff at the very top. For some reason, Paranoid gets talked about more, but I'd say this album is miles ahead of what I heard on Paranoid. Volume 4 is doom metal, no matter what many will say. The way the guitars on this album sound is revolutionary with that doom metal and what later death metal would do, as the guitars are tuned lower than ever before. I would say it's like a level up from C standard. It's a level up from C standard, but not really D standard on that. It's the one in between. I'm thinking that's what it is, but yeah, nonetheless, it's near the C tuning, and like really nobody was like that was fucking rare at the time, and it just made the heaviest fucking music at that time. Songs that make this one revolutionary is the whole album. Let me read them honestly. Wheels of Confusion, Tomorrow's Dream, Changes, just absolutely awesome song there. FX, Supernaut, Supernaut, just chugging along and having that hard hitting fucking down tune guitars on that one. Snowblind, Cornucopia, Laguna Sunrise, St. Vitus Dance, and Under the Sun. Just an absolute fucking masterpiece album. And if it wasn't for the one at number one, this one would be at number one, honestly. It should be at number one with how this album is. It should be, but there's one that's better than it, in my opinion. It always has been better than it, in my opinion. All the songs here show what guitars can do in the down-tune department while also being quite psychedelic, laced, and muddy. This one is a must-hear, and I'd say it is more important than Paranoid, Fight Me, but with how it sounds and how the guitars were, it's more fucking revolutionary. Honestly, it kind of gave the whole fucking scene its sound. Volume 4 basically gave what other bands were doing. Other bands wanted to like get that same fucking sound that was on that one. Number 1 is going to be Sabotage. I said Sabotage. That's a band, but yeah, it's a good band, but it's not what this one is. Sabotage, 1975, my personal, never-changing favorite Sabbath album. Metallica Mania. The Mania part comes from my favorite Black Sabbath song, Megalomania, as it's a masterpiece, just like the rest of the record. Just that album is just this big, long fucking song. It just has many parts and many hard-driven parts all the way through. It's basically a mix of Volume 4 and Bloody Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, having the heaviness of Volume 4 and the brilliant use of keyboard seen on the Sabbath Bloody Sabbath album, while still having that Volume 4 punch. Every song packs a punch. Let me read them as I'm going to. Hole in the Sky, Don't Start Too Late. Just an absolute classic there to go right into Symptoms of the Universe. It's just this like chug fest and just eerie, grimy, nasty song. Megalomania that just goes just all wacky all over the fucking place with them just screaming, suck me and stick me all the time. And like, yeah, that's basically, I can't really explain it, but it's just this long ass song. It's just banger after banger after banger parts just all put together and just made into this big stew that is cohesive. 5, Thrill of It All. 6, Super Czar. 7, I'm Going Insane. And The Writ to end the album. Yeah. Truly Black Sabbath greatest work and one of my favorite metal albums of all time. Sabbath would never even come close to this album, and they wouldn't, no matter how much they tried, in my opinion, because like the first time I listened to it, I was like, this album is by far my favorite album from this band. And it stayed that way ever since, even when listening to the Martin era, even when listening to everything else. I've always connected with this album the most. Kind of found it to be the one that I go back to the most and the one that I've listened to the most. But yeah, that's how I rank Black Sabbath. Hope everyone is not too got too upset about this one, but I did last time. It happened last time. People got quite upset with how I placed him on the list again, but I really don't give a fuck, honestly, because like it's all my opinion, and yeah, these albums are just this type of video is just all opinionated, but yeah, hope everyone liked it. Probably not everyone liked it, but I'll see everyone in the next video whenever I decide to upload, which will be a break because this one took fucking forever and like, yeah, really caused a lot of fucking havoc. But yeah, till next time.